Enidino, Matthew here with freeprescriptionlenses.com, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to cut invisible bifocals for your Ray-Ban. What model do you have here? You have, it is worn off, the 51 color 2304, size 54, the black crystal. I'm actually wearing a blue crystal Ray-Ban myself. Goes well with my blue and white pinstripe shirts. So the first thing I'm going to do, you have sent me your frame, and though it's hard to see, I've got some dots on here. Show me your pupillary distance and the height of the bifocal, which I've measured. I have ordered your lenses. How's that for special effects in the background as I move it over the print? But the first thing I'm going to do is pop your original lenses out that are very scratched up. You were correct. You said you scratched them, and you did. I'm going to put your Italian Ray-Ban frame into my Italian Santinelli LE1000 patternless edger. And it's the tracer is going to trace the shape of your right lens, and then it's going to trace the shape of your left here at freeprescriptionlenses.com, where everyone loves a bargain and no one is disappointed with quality. Of course, you did not buy the frame from me, and you are getting an invisible bifocal, one of the digital high definition bifocals, digital freeform. This is by Essilor. It's called the Advantage, the Ideal Advantage, I should say, in polycarbonate, which is 40% thinner and lighter than plastic. It's also unbreakable, bulletproof up to 22 caliber, and has both UVA and UVB protection in it. So let me pull up the shape of your lens onto the computer. I'm going to type in your pupillary distance of 58. I'm going to put in your bifocal height. Whoops, I'm still on the PD. Let's move down to your bifocal height. And I'm measuring at 19. So I'm going to type 19 into the computer here. There we go. This is a polycarbonate lens being cut for a Zyl frame, which is an old school name for plastic. Now all plastics are acetates, but at one time they were referred to as Zyl. So here are your lenses. Before I get started, I need to make sure that the height is perfect and the width for your pupillary distance. So this is your right lens, your left lens. I'm going to come over to this machine, use my optical grade acetone to erase the dots that the lab put on there, because I never trust anyone else. I always use my own measurements. So all invisible bifocals have a little laser mark in them. I'm just going to put a dot. It also tells me the brand and the power of the bifocal. But I'm going to put two dots on there, 34 millimeters apart. Underline that to show that it is the left lens. Do the same thing for the right. At its brand location, I'm going to put a red dot on there and mark this one right. Let me move over. I flip the lens over. I have a layout chart. This tells me exactly where it's going to sit in front of your pupil. That's why I put the red dots on there, to get everything lined up perfectly. Get it lined up, and then put that red dot on there, flip this over, do the same thing with the left. Now that has done, I need to put it into the machine. This block is going to hold it in place while it's cutting. This is a blocker. I'm about to put a block on there, but I need to put a little double-sided sticky pad. This is a 3M pad. I'm going to put this on there. The black side is the sticky side. That's how it sticks to my fingers. Put that on, peel away the double-sided tape, exposing the sticky side. I'm going to get everything lined up just perfectly. Pardon me while I know you can't see what's going on, but I'm lining everything up in like my optical crosshairs, vertically and horizontally. And now that red dot is right there in the center of the block. I'm going to do the same thing for the left lens. Put the block in there, pull away the little sticky pad, get everything lined up perfectly. There is no margin of error with the invisible bifocal. Actually, OSHA standards allows you a millimeter off, but I don't pretend that. I aim for the center of the bullseye every single time. There is no margin of error. That's the best thing about my job, is I can't rest on my laurels. No matter how hard a prescription was that I just cut, it doesn't matter for this next one, and all you care about is the one I'm cutting for you. You can care less about the last guy. So the calipers are going to come down and trace the shape of your frame onto the lens to make sure it's large enough to cut out. It's tracing the concave side of the lens, which is closest to your eyelashes. Then it's going to move over and trace the convex side of your lens, which is away from your face, using the calipers to measure the thickness, knowing exactly where to place the bevel. The actual cutting wheel is down here on the bottom, on the left. There's like a heavy grit sandpaper that's going to grind away the polycarbonate material, and this wheel in the center with the channel is what's going to put the bevel onto your lens so it stays inside the bevel of the frame. I will have to close the door in a moment. I just want you to see as your lens touches the cutting wheel. So originally you paid a fortune for these at Lens Crafters. You sent me your bill just because I had your old prescription and some of the measurements and your pupillary distance. I thank you for that, even though you sent me your new prescription, which tells me exactly what to put in there. But I saw what their prices were, what brand of invisible bifocal you got, and you're getting a much higher quality digital freeform Essilor Ideal Advantage. Again, your lens is 40% thinner and lighter than regular plastic. It is virtually unbreakable and bulletproof up to 22 caliber, as well as having both UVA and UVB protection. It is starting to take shape. This is the outside of your lens, the temporal area as we call it. This is towards your nose. Now you can see water running in the background, but it's not spraying onto the lens itself right now. Polycarbonate cuts dry where plastic and high index cut wet. There are water jets that will be spraying later on, but only to rinse off any debris at the very end. If you notice, it's still completely flat all the way around the lens. Soon it will move over and put the bevel onto the lens so it stays inside the bevel of the frame. It's like a miniature gutter, if you will, and we got to get it to stay inside that bevel. This whole process takes about 15 minutes. It is now 8:41 on Thursday, April 3rd, 72 degrees in my hometown of Durham, North Carolina. Now it's going to move over and put the bevel onto the lens. Now the water kicks in to wash away any of that optical debris. Actually, let me turn the fan off so no water gets on the camera lens. So in just a moment I'm going to take this out and make sure that it snaps into the frame. If not, I'll take it down a little bit more. I always start a little bit larger than I think the lens needs to be. You can always cut more off of a lens. You can never add it back on. So we'll see if it fits first time around. All right, we're done. The cycle is complete. I'm going to take this out of the chuck. Dry your lens off so it is not slippery on live TV. It is embarrassing when you drop a lens. So it's almost complete. You still have a little bit of rough edges around the edges. That's why they call them rough edges. So I'm going to use my hand stone, which is completely flat. I can put my hand on it while it's running, and all it does is get warm from the friction. But I'm going to put on here what's known as the safety bevel. I go around the edge of the lens. I scrape off the Schwarf. That is what this is called. It's more optical sawdust. Using my thumbnail to do so. I do this so much that I've worn a bevel into my thumbnail from scraping lenses. My friends call it my occupational thumbnail. Once I have that optical debris, the Schwarf on the counter, I wipe it onto the floor. This is when I tell every kid out there who's watching, kids, I went to school for years to learn how to make a mess and wipe stuff on the floor. Don't think you can do it as easily as me. Stay in school and learn to make a mess. Alright, so I'm going to see if this fits. I'm going to tuck this in at the outside corner and using my thumbs, I press down into the center and it snaps right in perfectly. So let's do the left lens. I'm going to flip this over and hit start. And just like before, the caliper is going to come down and trace the shape of your left lens to make sure it's large enough to fit into the frame. This is just a routine operation. I cannot override it. I wish I could. It would save me about a minute per lens. But anyway, I've gotten emails that people like watching this part, so I let it run. I see this all day. Forgive me if I've lost some of the magic from staring at this, like all the people who email me. This is their favorite part, watching it go round and round and trace. So again, it's about to drop down on the cutting wheel, and when it does, I will move over and continue working on your right lens. Okay, so this block is no longer needed. I'm going to use my deblocking tool to pull that off. I'm going to remove the sticker. And my water-based pen has come off, so I'm going to go back over to my progressive identifier. I've got actually the red dots are still there. So I'm going to lay them back on my layout chart. And using my red dot, put a dot where your optical center is. And I'll measure the pupillary distance in a moment, but for now I'm going to measure the height, where I'm getting right at 19 millimeters to where it meets your frame at. So, your prescription, Enidino. I've covered up your phone number so all your fans can't find you. You can still live in seclusion. But your right eye is plus 175 minus 50 at 56. Your left eye is a plus 75 sphere, and you have an additional 2 diopters for your bifocal, your invisible bifocal. So the unit of measurement in the optical world is called a diopter. That is spelled D-I-O-P-T-E-R. And everything is in quarter increments, 0.25, 0.50, 0.75, 1, and so on. I'm going to keep climbing 1 1/4, 150, 175. So if this were a ladder, you're on the 7th rung of the ladder. You need 7 steps of magnification. Without your glasses on, things are actually too small. When you put your glasses on, it magnifies everything to the correct size. So this first box, you need 7 steps of correction for magnification. You have 2 steps of correction of astigmatism in your right eye. There is a stigma over the word astigmatism. It just means shape. People, calm down. They freak out when they hear that word. It is not a disease. It is not an affliction. It just means your eye is not completely round. You have a second curvature, and you only need 2 steps of correction for that. And actually, you add that back in. That is a minus added to a plus. So your combined power in your glasses is plus 125. Now your left lens is a plus 75 sphere. So you need 3 steps of correction. You need no astigmatism correction. Now this number on with your right eye, 56. This first box gets everything the correct size. The astigmatism corrects the fuzzy edges. So the numbers 6s and 8 don't look alike. The letters P and F don't blend together. The 56 just tells us where to turn that fine-tune knob so that everything is perfectly clear. Now your bifocal is the addition, meaning that you need additional 2 steps of correction. So if you were to get reading glasses, this is where you add the 2 numbers together. Your right eye, which is plus 175, and 2, you would need a 375. A total of plus 375, which is kind of hard to find in a drugstore. I can make it for you in 15 minutes. But for your left eye, you need plus 275. You have 75 now, you add another 2 to it, and that becomes plus 275. At the computer, probably a plus 2. The higher the number, the closer you bring it in. So at the computer, probably a 2, but being a full diopter of difference, 175 and 75, you could probably split it and get a plus 3 1/4, and that would probably help you if you were just trying to thread a needle at home or balance a checkbook or something like that. If you were to read for hours, the astigmatism correction is what's going to reduce the eye fatigue. Reading glasses will work for so long, but eventually you're just going to get eye fatigue. So again, you still have some rough edges. I'm going to go back to the handstone. Put a safety bevel on there. Use my thumbnail to scrape that away off the lens. Check the time real quick. We got time. We got time. I got to be out of here at 9. So I collect all that on the counter and wipe it on the floor. Kids. How many times I got to tell you? Stay in school. So I'm going to tuck this in at the outside corner. Let's make sure this fits first. Tuck it in at the outside corner, and using my thumbs, I press down at the nose. And actually it does not. I'm going to take this down a little bit more. Put this back in the caliper, and I'm going to take 1/10 of a millimeter off the edge of your lens. Now, a millimeter is the distance between the center of my thumbnails. I'm going to take 1/10 of that off around the complete circumference to make sure it fits inside the bevel. I could force it in. I could use heat, where the bead pan, you move this around, it makes plastic a little bit more pliable. But for plastic, I like to do what's known as a cold mount, where it snaps in easily. Just because if it ever goes in too tight years from now, it forces, if you were to think of the bottom of your frame as a gutter, which the lens goes into like pine straw that you got to clean out. But if it was too tight, it would force it to what we call roll, which would make your lens possibly fall out years from now. It's just a sign of poor craftsmanship. I'm very particular about the lab work that I produce. I cut every single pair of lenses that leaves this store that goes on someone's face. There's no margin of error when you're a small independent guy. Big, huge corporations could care less, but I aim for the center of the bullseye on every single one that I cut. As I alluded to earlier, that's probably my favorite thing about the job. Me and airline pilots, we cannot rest on our laurels. Meaning that I don't care how tough a landing you pulled off 5 years ago in a thunderstorm in a mountainous region. You could tell that story to people on your plane. They could care less. They just want to make sure you land that plane safely today, this time. So it doesn't matter how challenging the last prescription I just cut. I'm here to focus on yours now and make sure that it is as perfect as every single lens that I ever cut on this machine. That's why you come to me to have your lenses made. That, and I'm cheaper than anyone else. That too. Okay, so I'm going to dry your lens off. Back to the handstone, back to the safety bevel real quick. I'm going to speed this up since you've seen this before. Scrape away the debris onto the counter. And now kids, hang on, last of that. Get it on the counter. And now what am I going to do? Behind the back onto the floor. Look at that technique. Kids, you might have to stay in school a little longer. Get your master's degree. All right, so I'm going to tuck this in at the outside corner, and using my thumbs, press down. That snaps in perfectly now. I'm going to take this block off. Pull that sticker, pull that away. What do you know? The red dot's gone, so I'm going to line everything back up again on my graph. Put a dot there. I'm going to hold this up. You have a pupillary distance of 58. When I put my PD stick down, I'm going to put it on top of your right lens. I'm going to put it on the 0 and move over, and hopefully you see 58 millimeters, 2 tick marks before the 60 if my GoPro camera is good enough. I'm going to check the height of the left lens now. It should be 19 at the center of the dot, and then going down to where the middle of the frame is, you see 19. Same on this side, center to 19. Perfect PD, perfect set height. Now I'm going to put this into my Marco 101 lensometer. I'm going to spin my axis wheel to 56. That is the fine tune knob for your right. Put it in just above your optical center. Test your distance. I'm getting plus 175. We have a 1 there, 1 1/4, 150, 175, 2. I'm getting plus 175. I'm going to check your astigmatism correction, which is minus 50. And that gives you a combined power of plus 1 1/4. Let me move over. Your left eye is a plus 75 sphere. That's what I'm getting. 0, 1/4, 50, 0.75, 1. So that is perfect. Enidino, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to chase my American dream. If I can be of any more help, you know where to find me at. I'm only an email away. To everyone else, just email me at freeprescriptionlenses@gmail.com, or just hit the contact me button on the website, and the email will automatically pull up. Enidino, I hope you appreciate or you've enjoyed watching your glasses being made, and everyone else out there, I hope you've had the opportunity to see how I bring that love and feeling back to glasses. Thank you.